Hello and welcome to G Fun Facts Online. Today we're journeying high into the snow-capped peaks of the Himalayas to explore a tradition steeped in mysticism, profound faith, and intense global politics. The search for the next Dalai Lama. This isn't your typical succession plan. Forget elections, forget royal bloodlines. This is a spiritual quest that operates on the belief that a compassionate soul can choose to be reborn again and again, to continue a life of service. The Dalai Lama is, for Tibetan Buddhists, the living embodiment of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion. The current Dalai Lama, Tenzin Gyatso, the 14th in his line, is a global icon of peace. But as he advances in age, the question of who will follow him looms large, not just for the 6 million Tibetans who revere him, but for a world captivated by his message. The search for his reincarnation is set to be one of the most fascinating and politically charged spiritual events of the 21st century, with the very future of an ancient tradition hanging in the balance. So, how do you find a reincarnated soul? At the heart of this entire process is the Buddhist concept of reincarnation, or tulku in Tibetan. The belief is that certain enlightened beings, called bodhisattvas, can consciously choose the time and place of their rebirth to continue their mission of alleviating suffering. The Dalai Lamas are considered the ultimate example of this. Each one is a continuation of the very same stream of consciousness that began with the first Dalai Lama, Gendon Drup, way back in the 14th century. The title itself, Dalai Lama, means ocean of wisdom, and it was first given to the third in the lineage by the Mongol ruler Altan Khan in 1578. His two predecessors were then posthumously given the title, solidifying a chain that is believed to stretch back through dozens of earlier incarnations. So this isn't about electing a new leader. It's about finding the child who is the unmistakable, verifiable rebirth of the previous one. It's a discovery, not a decision. The traditional search is a meticulous and often lengthy process, a fascinating blend of mystical science and methodical investigation. It typically begins only after the current Dalai Lama has passed away. The first clues often come from the predecessor himself. Disciples pay incredibly close attention to his final words, any gestures or hints he might have given about where he might be reborn. Even the position of his body after death is considered a vital clue. For instance, after the 13th Dalai Lama passed away, his head, which was initially facing south, was later found to have turned to the northeast. This was taken as a divine sign, pointing the search party in that direction. If the body is cremated, the direction of the smoke is carefully monitored for the same reason. Then come the visions. High-ranking lamas travel to meditate at sacred sites, most famously at the Oracle Lake of Lamo Lotso in central Tibet. It's believed that visions can appear on the surface of this holy lake, providing specific details: the shape of a mountain, the design of a house, even the names of the child's parents. In fact, the regent of Tibet had a clear vision of a monastery with a golden green roof and a nearby house with distinctive turquoise tiles. This vision was instrumental in locating the current 14th Dalai Lama. The state oracle of Tibet, the Nichung Oracle, is also consulted. A medium enters a trance state, and the oracle provides cryptic clues that help guide the search. Based on all these signs, a search party of high lamas is dispatched. They often travel in disguise to the region indicated by the prophecies, looking for children born around the time of the previous Dalai Lama's death. Once a potential candidate is found, a series of rigorous tests begins to confirm if the child is truly the one. These tests are designed to see if the child retains memories of their past life. The most famous test involves objects. The child is presented with a collection of items, some that belong to the previous Dalai Lama, and some that are identical fakes. The true reincarnation is expected to unerringly identify the items that were his. The current Dalai Lama, as a young boy named Lamo Dondup, famously passed this test. When presented with various rosaries, walking sticks, and drums, he is said to have grabbed the correct ones, exclaiming, "It's mine, it's mine!" Beyond this, the child's physical features are examined for specific marks, and their personality is observed. They might be asked to recognize former servants or disciples from their previous life. Once confirmed, the child and his family are escorted to the capital, Lhasa, where the young Dalai Lama begins a long and intensive period of monastic education to prepare him for his role. This ancient, mystical tradition has now been thrust into a modern political minefield. The complex and fraught relationship between Tibet and China casts a long shadow over the succession. Since the 1959 Tibetan uprising, which forced the 14th Dalai Lama to flee into exile in India, the Chinese government has systematically sought to control all aspects of Tibetan life, including its deepest spiritual traditions. The Chinese Communist Party, an officially atheist organization, has made the audacious claim that it holds the sole authority to approve the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama. In 2007, they passed a law mandating that all reincarnations of living Buddhas in Tibet must get state approval. Chinese officials have repeatedly stated that the next Dalai Lama must be found within China's borders, and that any successor chosen by Tibetans in exile will be declared illegitimate. A key part of China's strategy is to force the use of the golden urn lottery system. This method, introduced by the Qing dynasty in the 18th century, involves putting the names of candidates into a golden urn and drawing one at random. Beijing insists this is how the 15th Dalai Lama must be chosen. The current Dalai Lama and the Tibetan government in exile firmly reject this, arguing it was rarely used for Dalai Lamas, lacks spiritual integrity, and is a transparent attempt to politicize a sacred process. The Tibetan community's fears are deeply rooted in recent history. In 1995, the Dalai Lama identified a 6-year-old boy in Tibet, Gedhun Choki Nyima, as the reincarnation of the Panchen Lama, the second most important figure in their faith. Shortly after the announcement, the boy and his entire family vanished. They had not been seen or heard from in public since. The Chinese government then installed its own Panchen Lama, a boy named Gyaltsen Norbu, who is not recognized by most Tibetans. This entire episode is seen by many as a chilling dress rehearsal for what China plans to do when the time comes to find the next Dalai Lama. Their motive is political: control the reincarnation, install a leader who is loyal to Beijing, and sever the profound spiritual connection between the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan people. Faced with this unprecedented threat, the 14th Dalai Lama has responded with a proactive and remarkably modern approach. He has made it crystal clear that the authority on his reincarnation rests with him and the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, not with any political power. He has declared that his successor will be found outside of Chinese-controlled territory, most likely in India, where the largest Tibetan exile community lives. As he puts it, the new Dalai Lama will be born in the free world. But he hasn't stopped there. He has floated several other possibilities that break with centuries of tradition. He has suggested that the institution of the Dalai Lama itself might not need to continue after him, stating the decision ultimately rests with the Tibetan people. He has also raised the radical possibility of appointing his successor while he is still alive, essentially transferring his spiritual realization to a chosen individual. And, with his characteristic humor and openness, he has said his reincarnation could be a woman if a female Dalai Lama would be more useful to the world, even joking he could be reborn as a mischievous blonde woman. To protect the process, he established the Godin Phadrung Trust, which is tasked with overseeing the search for his successor, completely independent of any government influence. The starkly opposing positions of the Dalai Lama and the Chinese government have set the stage for a major crisis. Many observers fear that when the 14th Dalai Lama passes, we will see two rival Dalai Lamas, one recognized by the Tibetan government in exile and the global Tibetan community, and another appointed by and controlled by Beijing. This would create a painful schism within Tibetan Buddhism and a major diplomatic headache for the international community. The United States has already taken a stand, passing the Tibetan Policy and Support Act, which affirms that the selection is a purely religious matter for the Tibetan Buddhist community and threatens sanctions against any Chinese official who tries to interfere. The search for the Dalai Lama is more than a religious custom. It's a powerful symbol of the Tibetan people's resilience and their unwavering faith in the face of immense adversity. As the world watches and waits for the next chapter in this extraordinary saga, the future remains uncertain. Will this ancient tradition withstand the crushing pressures of modern geopolitics? The answer will not only determine the fate of one of the world's most revered spiritual figures, but will also be a testament to the enduring power of faith and the unyielding spirit of a people determined to preserve their heritage. The search for the 15th Dalai Lama will, without a doubt, be a defining moment for Tibet and for the world. Thank you for tuning in to G Fun Facts Online.